Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're going down a rabbit hole. A seriously fascinating one, but pretty disturbing too. We're talking about the life and crimes of Rodney Alcala.
Alcala, yeah. Convicted serial killer. But get this. The guy was also, somehow, a seemingly charming photographer. So, how do those two things even go together? That's what we're going to try to figure out today.
Right, we got a bunch of different sources for this one. We're looking at court transcripts, news reports, and there's this really interesting true crime podcast episode we dug up.
A lot to untangle here.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so picture this. It's the 70s groovy times, right? And this guy Alcala, he actually shows up on the dating game.
You're kidding, the dating game? Seriously?
Not kidding. And we're talking about that dating game, the one everyone watched, like your grandma probably knew all the contestants.
Wild. It
Yeah.
just goes to show you, right? Appearances can be totally deceiving. You think you're watching a charming guy on TV, meanwhile?
Right. Meanwhile, he's a convicted child molester.
Yeah.
There's also this whole thing about him working as a counselor at a girls' camp. Can you believe that?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms we'll get into. And then there's the storage locker, packed with photos of women. Turns out a lot of them are still unidentified.
Makes you wonder, right? Like, how many victims are we actually talking about here?
Exactly. So what we're going to do today is try to piece together Alcala's life. See if we can figure out how he managed to operate for so long without anyone catching on.
Okay, so let's rewind all the way back. Alcala's early life. He was born in 43, had kind of a rough childhood. His dad took off when he was young, and there are all these reports about him having behavioral problems even as a kid.
Makes you think, right? Could those early experiences have, I don't know, shaped him in some way? Maybe pushed him down this path?
I mean, it's got to be part of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you're right. It's not like every kid with a rough childhood becomes a serial killer.
Definitely not. But things take a dark turn. 1968. That's when he committed his first known crime, kidnapped and assaulted an 8-year-old girl, Tali Shapiro, in L.A.
Oh, man. That poor girl. I can't even imagine.
The officer who found her, she was just lying there on the kitchen floor. It seemed like she was gone.
Really?
Yeah. But then, get this, Tali started breathing again, like miraculously.
Wow. Talk about a close call.
Right. And then they search Alcala's apartment, find all this photography equipment, and tons of photos of young girls.
Hey, so not just like family snapshots or something.
No, definitely not. This was different, more like, evidence.
And then he escapes. Gets himself onto the FBI's most wanted list.
The guy was seriously cunning, blended right in, like he was harmless, but he had these really dangerous intentions.
So how did they catch him?
Funny enough, someone recognized him. He was working at a girls' camp in New Hampshire. Think about that for a second.
Ugh, that's chilling.
So they finally arrest him, and the sentence he got for attacking Tali, a joke.
What do you mean?
He only served 34 months for child molestation.
Seriously? That's it?
Yep. Mind-boggling, right? Knowing everything we know now.
Absolutely. So wait, you said he was on the dating game. When was that?
1978. Like right out of prison.
No way. So the guy's a convicted child molester, and he's out there trying to win a date on national TV?
The guy was a master manipulator. Used his charm, his looks to disarm people. It's scary how effective it was.
And luckily, the woman who actually won the date, she backed out. She said he seemed creepy. Dodged a bullet there, probably.
Yeah, who knows what could happen. But while Alcala's out there, playing Mr. Personality on game shows, there are these 2 murders in New York City that would later be linked to him. Cornelia Crilly in 71 and Ellen Jane Hover in 77.
So he was already
had a body count, yeah.
Yeah.
Both murders were brutal. And of course, back then, it took decades for the cases to be solved. So much pain for the families not knowing.
Ugh, that's awful. So many unanswered questions for so long. And then there's Christine Ruth Thornton, right? Disappeared in 77. Her sister, Kathy, spent over 40 years trying to find out what happened to her.
Yeah, incredible story. Kathy never gave up. And guess what? Her search for answers eventually leads her right back to Rodney Alcala.
No way. So all this time...
All this time, it was him. We'll get to that, though.
Okay, so you keep saying Alcala was manipulative. What should people look out for? Like, are there signs?
It's not always easy to spot, but there are some common tactics. Manipulators, they often play the victim, trying to guilt trip you, or they love bomb you. All that attention, all those compliments, it can be intoxicating. And then there's gaslighting, trying to make you doubt your own reality.
So they make you think you're going crazy, basically.
Exactly. They try to isolate you from your friends, your family, anyone who could help you see what's really going on. It's all about control.
It's like they're creating this illusion of charm, of trustworthiness,
Yeah,
but it's all fake.
exactly. So trust your gut. If something feels off about someone, doesn't matter how charming they seem, better safe than sorry.
I guess that's the takeaway, right?
Yeah,
Pay attention to those red flags. Don't ignore them.
for sure. And it makes you wonder, right? If Alcala had gotten a real sentence, done some serious time, could any of this have been prevented?
Maybe. It's a tough question,
Hmm.
but it definitely makes you think about how we handle criminals,
Yeah.
about rehabilitation, about making sure they don't hurt anyone else.
Absolutely. We've got to do better. Okay, so we've seen Alcala's early crimes and how he managed to slip through the cracks, but things are about to get even darker.
Okay, bring it on. Let's hear it.
This brings us to one of the most well-known cases connected to Alcala, the murder of 12-year-old Robin Samso. This was in California in 1979.
Okay, this is where it gets...
This is where it gets really chilling. So this case with Robin Samso, it's especially disturbing because we actually have an eyewitness account of her last moment.
Yeah, I read about that. It's just such horrible... She was the friend, right, Bridget?
Bridget, yeah. They were on the beach when Alcala came up to them, asked if he could take their picture.
Ugh, that's terrifying. Imagine you're at the beach, sunny California, and this guy...
Seems friendly enough, right? Just wants to snap a photo. But it's like a textbook example of how these predators operate. They blend in. Alcala, he used photography, something that seems innocent, to get close to his victims, mostly young girls.
So creepy. It's like he weaponized a hobby.
Yeah.
But wait, wasn't there someone else there? Someone who noticed them?
Yeah, there was another woman on the beach, Jackie. She saw it was happening, and she just felt like something wasn't right.
Wow. Good for her. That's amazing.
It really is. Jackie, she goes up to the girls, asks if they're okay, like directly challenges Alcala. That takes guts.
Absolutely. We need more people like Jackie in the world, paying attention, trusting their instincts.
Totally. It's a reminder that we can all, make a difference, be more aware of our surroundings, look out for each other. But in this case...
It wasn't enough, right?
No. Bridget stayed with Jackie, but Robin, she rode off on her bike. And that was it. No one ever saw her alive again.
God, I can't even.
They found her remains 12 days later, miles from the beach. And the investigation, it leads back to Alcala. His parole officer, he recognized him from a composite sketch.
Wow, really? So even something as basic as a sketch.
Sometimes that's all it takes. It's like one little piece of the puzzle that brings the whole picture into focus.
It's crazy how these things work out. So they arrest him, right, for Robin's murder.
Yep. And he's convicted, gets the death penalty, but...
There's a but.
The sentence gets overturned on appeal. Not once, but twice.
Are you serious? That's insane.
I know. Can you imagine what Robin's family went through? The pain, the frustration, it never ends.
It's hard to understand, honestly. Like, what's the point of even having an appeals process if...
It's a tough question. I mean, it's supposed to ensure fairness, right? Make sure everyone gets a fair trial. But sometimes it just drags things out, causes more pain for the victims' families.
Totally. It's like, where do you draw the line?
Exactly. So where were we? Oh, right. So early 2000s, DNA technology starts to really advance. And they're able to use it to link Alcala to 4 more murders, all in LA.
Wow. So not just Robin.
No, this guy, he was busy. And it just shows you the power of science, right? These cases, they were cold for decades, and then boom, DNA evidence blows everything wide open.
It's incredible, but it's also kind of scary, right? Like, how many other cases are out there just waiting for the right technology to come along?
It's a chilling thought. So with these 4 new murders, they decide to combine all 5 California cases into a single trial. And get this, Alcala decides to represent himself.
Wait, what? He was his own lawyer.
Yeah, pretty unusual, right? I guess he wanted to be in control, even then, facing all that evidence.
Like he had a god complex or something. Thought he could outsmart everyone.
Maybe. There was this one moment during the trial that was intense. Alcala was cross-examining Robin's mother, and she said that she could feel Robin's presence in the courtroom.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
It was. You could just feel the emotion in the room, the weight of it all.
Powerful. So what happened? Did he get convicted again?
3rd time's the charm, another death sentence. But it turns out his crimes weren't just limited to California.
You mean?
Remember those 2 unsolved murders in New York? Cornelia Crilly and Ellen Jane Hover? Well, while all this was going on in California, detectives in New York were making some progress on those cases. They used fingerprints, bite marks, and they were able to link Alcala to those murders, too.
So this guy was like a nationwide terror.
Pretty much. And to avoid being extradited to New York, Alcala actually pleaded guilty to those murders.
So even then, he was trying to control things.
Seems like it. Didn't want to face another trial. So that's 2 more convictions on top of everything else. But there's still one more piece of the puzzle. Christine Ruth Thornton. Remember her? The woman whose sister spent decades searching for her.
Yeah, of course. What happened to her? Was Alcala involved?
Oh, he was involved. And it's a pretty incredible story. Remember all those photos we talked about? The ones found in Alcala's storage locker?
Yeah, the ones of all those unidentified women.
Well, in 2013, Kathy Thornton's son, he was watching 48 Hours. And they showed one of the photos from the locker.
Wait.
He recognized his aunt, Christine.
No way. Seriously. Just from a photo.
It's wild, right? And then they did DNA testing on some unidentified remains that had been found in Wyoming back in '82. And guess what?
Yeah, it was Christine.
It was Christine. After all those years, Kathy finally had her answer. But it's a bittersweet ending, right?
Totally. At least she knows what happened.
Oh,
But it's tragic.
it is. So the prosecutors, they wanted to get some answers from Alcala. They went to the prison, interviewed him about Christine. He actually claimed he knew the area where her remains were found, even traced her body in the photo they showed him. But when they asked if he killed her, he denied it. Said she was alive when he left her.
Come on. That's ridiculous.
Right, like he actually thought anyone would believe him. But it's typical Alcala, you know? Always trying to manipulate the situation, even from behind bars.
It's chilling. So they never actually charged him with Christine's murder.
No. But her case, it just adds to the long list of lives that Alcala destroyed. So many victims, so much pain.
It's hard to even process it all,
Mm.
But it's important to remember those victims and their families, the people who are still living with the consequences of Alcala's actions.
Absolutely. We can't let them be forgotten. And there's still the question of all those other women in those photos, the ones who are still unidentified.
Right. Hundreds of photos. Hundreds of potential victims. It's overwhelming to think about.
It is. But that's where you, our listeners, come in. It's possible, yeah. There are hundreds of these photos. Women, couples, kids, taken by Alcala. And law enforcement, they release them online, hoping someone might recognize somebody.
So someone listening right now could actually help crack a case. That's incredible.
It's a long shot, but hey, you never know. It's worth a try, right? Someone out there might have the missing piece of the puzzle.
Totally. So where can people find these photos if they want to take a look?
We've put a link in the show notes. Go check it out. And if you recognize anyone, anything at all, please contact the authorities, even if you're not sure. It could bring a family some peace,
Yeah,
knowing what happened to their loved one.
absolutely. Closure. It's so important. It's amazing to think just looking at a photo could help solve a cold case.
Yeah, it really shows how we can all play a part, even in a small way. We can all help bring these criminals to justice.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. Alcala's early crimes, the DNA evidence, the Robin Samso case. It's been heavy.
It has, but important, I think. We can learn from these cases, learn how to protect ourselves, how to be more aware.
Definitely. So what are some of the key takeaways here? What do you think our listeners should really remember?
Well, the big one, don't trust appearances.
Yeah.
Alcala was charming. He knew how to make people like him, but underneath, he was a monster.
So how can we be more vigilant? I mean, you meet someone, they seem nice. How do you know?
It's tough, but trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore those red flags. And learn about the tactics these guys use, like playing the victim, gaslighting, all that. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be.
Right. Knowledge is power. And we talked about this before, but it's worth repeating.
Yeah.
We all need to look out for each other. If you see something that doesn't seem right, say something. Don't be afraid to intervene.
Exactly. You might just save a life. And hey, the advancements in forensic science, DNA technology, that's huge. It's giving hope to families who thought they'd never get answers. It's helping to bring these criminals to justice.
Yeah, it's amazing what science can do. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Rodney Alcala, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away?
Think critically. Trust your instincts. And get involved. We can all work together to make the world a safer place.
Well said. This case might be closed, but the conversation about safety, about justice, that never ends. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Don't forget to check out the show notes for those photos and more information. And if you have any thoughts, anything you want to share, hit us up on social media. Stay safe out there, everyone.